All right, we have Michelle Waterson on the show, and a few weeks back, she defeated Angela Hill in the main event of UFC Vegas 10. Happy to be joined by the victorious fight mom herself on the program for the first time. Michelle, how are you?
I'm amazing. Enjoying my family. We just got back from a camping trip, so doing good.
There you go. I see you've healed up well. No more remnants of the fight because you guys went at it for about 25 minutes. It was a great fight. How are you feeling now physically?
Oh, it's great. I've been fighting for so long. When you're in the fight, your adrenaline's going. You don't feel any of those things, obviously. Everybody takes damage differently, but they were superficial bumps and bruises. They were gone within the week. And anytime you get bumps and bruises and you come home with the victory, none of that matters.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, it was a very competitive matchup between you two ladies. It came down to the third and final judge. You're standing in the octagon just waiting for the name to be read. How much of a relief was it to hear Michelle Waterson is the winner of the fight from the ring announcer? Because that must have been like, woof.
Yeah, absolutely. You never want to leave it in the hands of the judges, but when both people show up to compete, that's what happens. And I was confident I was going to get my hand raised. In my head, in my mind, in my heart, there was no other option but to win.
You've been a part of some really good battles over the years, but this is one of those fights that even a few weeks later, it still kind of carried over a little bit longer than your typical MMA fight or main event because of how competitive and how gritty and heart-shown that fight was. Of course, in an ideal situation, you want to go in the octagon, get a quick finish, but to be part of a great fight like that was universally praised and still is, what does that mean to you?
Well, it means the world. We put our heart out on the lines for the world to see, and when you're able to put together an awesome performance that people always continually talk about, that's great. We at the end of the day, we are here to entertain, and especially in the time of need where people tune into sports as a means of an outlet. For sure, I'll put on my warrior spirit and show that us as a human race have that warrior spirit within all of us.
And your division, if you look at maybe like the top 10, 12 fights of 2020, two of them are clearly in your division between your fight and then the one between Joanna and Weili Zhang. Strawweight is on fire right now.
I tell people all the time the strawweight division is the most stacked division in the female roster of the UFC. The girls just show up to fight. Not only are they full of heart and will and determination, but technically very sound fighters with amazing resumes, even outside of the top 10. And I constantly am reminding people of that. And the girls are too. Anytime they are slated to fight, they show up to fight. I did pull lots of inspiration after watching Joanna and Weili, banging out for 5 rounds and have that back and forth. I wanted to show people that I'm right there with them.
Did you feel like a little bit more free and loose heading into this fight? Because it seemed like in the fights with Joanna and Carla, I don't know if there's like something holding you back. Maybe you were so focused on specific game plans or whatnot. But this one, it just seemed like, okay, you know what? Let's just fight. Let me punch her in the face and we'll go from there. Like, is that accurate? Was the approach a little more you, I should say?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what it is. I think as a fighter, when you start getting closer to the top, you can allow the pressure of getting there, overcome you, and you can be. There's so many things that go into a fight. There's the outside noise. There's the politics of it. There's the rankings of it, and then there's the actual fight. There's the mental side of the fight, and there's the physical side of the fight. And then inside of the physical, there's stand up, ground, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, cage work, groundwork. So there's all these things, and you can just become overwhelmed with everything, and the trajectory of where your career is going to go if you go left or right. And I decided to just leave that all behind, go in there and be in the moment. Me and my sports psychologist really worked on that. What is it that you want to feel when you step inside that octagon? What is it that what is it that you're after? And we realized it wasn't necessarily the win. It was the idea that I was able to implement the things that I've learned over 2 decades in a fight. And that's when I really am able to get in the zone and shine, is when I can go in there and be a complete martial artist. And like you said, just punch somebody in the face.
How long have you been working with a sports psychologist, if you don't mind me asking?
I would say, I think it was after my fight with Tisha that I started working with him, and I hope that's the right time frame. Sorry, Dr. Shannon, if that's not, but yeah, he's been working with me. He got me through 2 wins, and then we went through a rough patch. We had those 2 losses, and that's where you grow the most. And we kept working at it, and just like the physical side of anything you put into play, anything you are working on implementing, it takes time and it takes practice, it takes consistency. And we really needed to see, if these things were going to work when we were low, when we were down. How could we get out of these ruts that we were in?
How important is visualization with your relationship with the sports psychologist? Does he tell you to visualize every moment, in the locker room, when you're walking out? Is it more than just the fight itself?
Yeah, absolutely. And because it is, if you talk to any champion, they'll tell you how important your mental strength is. The fight is won or lost before you even step in the cage. It's your physiology. It's your state of mind. It's what you decide to focus on, your intent, your story, all of these things that come into play. And it's not just visualization, it's your imagery. When you see Mike Tyson talking about how he's going to walk into the ring, you don't just see him talk about it. He takes you into his world and shows you, allows you to feel, allows you to see, allows you to smell everything that he's thinking. When Israel Adesanya is talking about what he's going to do, he does the same thing. When Conor McGregor is visualizing what he's going to do to be a 2-time world champion in 2 different divisions, he's not just visualizing it, he's living it. And that's the difference between real strong mental game and a bit of a weaker one, because you can visualize it, but that's just only one sense. You got to be able to feel it. You got to feel what it feels like for for my glove to hit her face. I have to be able to smell what it is when she's bleeding. What does that smell like when I have her up against the cage? What is it? What does her body feel like? How shallow are her breaths when I'm on top of her, throwing those elbows? What is my body language like when I get my hand raised? What is my body language like when I land in Vegas and I have to quarantine? All those things.
You mentioned some of the factors heading into the fight, one of them being outside noise. And I don't know how much you pay attention to social media and what people have to say, but this wasn't the original main event. And once it was announced that you and Angela were getting the bump up, it was met, I would say, with mixed reviews at best. But to go out there and prove a lot of people wrong, was that on your mind at all, to make people think differently once the fight ended, being like, see, I told you we were the right main event?
I didn't know people were thinking that. In my mind, I was perceiving it as, a blessing in disguise, and that's how I took it. And I took it and I ran with it. I had full confidence that Ange and I would go in there and put on a show. Like I said, the strawweights always do. I don't know why anybody would think anything different. But I think you become a bit numb to the outside noise as long as I've been fighting. If you allow that stuff to get into your head, it is a huge distraction and it's a huge waste of time.
You got your brown belt after the win, which was really cool. So congratulations on that. It was just a really cool moment to see. I love when that happens after these fights. Did you expect that to happen, or did it catch you completely by surprise?
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. Definitely honored. Absolutely. We've been working on our jiu-jitsu game for quite a long time. And definitely was part of the game plan, but you can never force those things to happen, yeah, for sure honored. I don't feel like, I guess it's one of those things, I still feel like I'm not undeserving of it. I feel like I have lots of work to do, but I guess the journey from brown to black is a hard journey as well. So I'm not going to complain about getting promoted. I'm just going to, keep my head down and continue to grind and continue to learn.
It's a great moment, but it's like a little humbling at the same time. It lets you know that you still have some room to grow still, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why I love MMA.
You said after the fight that you wanted something next to get you closer to the belt. And, it looks like Zhang is going to fight Rose Namajunas in her next title defense. Carla Esparza and Amanda Ribas have agreed to fight on December 12th. Joanna's still kind of hanging out there, but you just fought her around a year ago. There's Tatiana Suarez, but she's been hurt. So kind of a interesting spot for you to be in at the moment, is it not?
It definitely is, but I'm not going to complain. Like you said, I want to take a fight that's going to get me closer to the belt. I'm not interested in anything else. So I honestly, it's been kind of a crazy year, and I'm staying ready. And you never know what will happen. So we'll see.
A lot of people everyone's matchmaker after these cards. And one of the names that kept getting brought up for you, which I don't know if it makes a lot of sense to you, is Mackenzie Dern, because, she bounced back with the Amanda Ribas fight. She's got a couple of quick finishes. She's moving her way up. But again, since the division is filling up, there's not a ton of options for her either. So what are your thoughts on that potential matchup, should that be brought to your attention?
It doesn't make sense to me. I think I'm at a different spot in terms of how close I am to the belt versus where she's at. And that's no jab at her. She's been doing amazing. She's an amazing jiu-jitsu player and has been able to utilize her skills to get her where she's at now. I do think that I'm in a different spot than she is. Makes
sense. And then, we talked about how exciting 115 is, and you're there, and Joanna, we mentioned all the names, but now we're seeing fighters like Mackenzie, like Amanda, start to make their names up the ladder as well. So how exciting is that for you, knowing that there's just so much talent within the division, but now it's emerging as well? You're going to be busy, you're going to be motivated for the next couple of years, fighting some fresh faces as well.
Yeah, it is motivating. And I always tell people that you can't just keep your eye on the top 10 of the division, because these girls that the UFC are signing, already come with a very, very impressive resume. And, they're hungry to get to the top, and the faster they get to the top, that's their ultimate goal. I always tell people it's like the Highlander, there could be only one. And we'll see what happens. I'm super close, and so my focus is the top. And obviously, you always have to check your back and make sure that nobody's coming from behind to sneak you one. But my eyes on the prize ahead of me.
When do you want to come back in an ideal situation? If in a perfect world, when would you like to fight again?
It really depends on what the landscape looks like. In a little bit, it is kind of like you said. It is kind of up in the air. So maybe before the end of the year, maybe the beginning of next year. We'll see.
You mentioned the Highlander reference, which was phenomenal, by the way. But I think I saw an interview you did with Pop Culture, and you said that one of your goals in life would be to appear in a Marvel Comics movie, because that's pretty cool. My kid loves Marvel movies and Marvel Comics and stuff. Why Marvel, and what would that mean to you should that opportunity come your way?
My daughter is like a huge Marvel fan. She knows all the movies. She can quote, all of the cool sayings, and she knows all the superheroes, and she likes to stay to watch the secret endings, and they spend hours watching all the little secret nuggets that they have. And I just think it would be super cool. I do believe my daughter already thinks so well of me, but I do think it would be a little cherry on top for her to say my mom's a superhero in Marvel. And Marvel's like the top of the top.
What would be cooler for her, you being in a superhero in a Marvel movie, or you becoming a world champion?
I don't know. You'd have to ask her.
All right, fair enough. Are you a movie buff yourself? Is there is there like a movie that comes on the television that no matter what time of day you're watching it, no matter what, you're never going to change the channel?
We don't have cable, but we do have Netflix and like Amazon Prime. And so I have a bad habit of binging on things kind of as my way to kind of wind down at the end of the night. One of the series that I've been watching a lot lately is The 100. I think it's like a really, really fun and interesting show. There are tons, Dexter was one of my favorite. Obviously, Breaking Bad that they filmed out here in New Mexico. Ozarks.
Yep.
I'm listing off the things that are like, man, those are classics. Let me see. Yeah, but those are kind of the ones that I can think of off the top of my head.
Last thing before we let you go, I'm curious because this fight, I looked at the calendar. I'm like, man, this is going to be here before you know it. But the next big title fight, Khabib versus Justin Gaethje on October 24th. As a fighter and as a fan, I'm sure you're as excited as anybody else to sit down and watch that one. But how do you see that fight playing out? Do you have any kind of an idea, any prediction?
Man, that's going to be an amazing fight, honestly. I hope for it to go all 5 rounds. Just, from a fan's perspective, to be able to see 2 masters in there duking it out for 5 rounds, I do feel like it'll be very technical. I think Khabib really surprised me with his stand-up in his last fight. And I think Gaethje really surprised me in his last couple of fights, not giving in to his emotional impulse to stand and bang.
Your mind can change. It's one of those fights where I feel like we're going to be teeter-tottering. So on this day, what's your gut telling you?
Gaethje.
Whoa. All right. Tomorrow could be a different answer. It's just one of those kinds of fights. But listen, your fight was phenomenal. It was one of those main events that it's going to be like an on this date kind of a fight. Like every single year, it's going to be on this date. 2 years ago, Michelle Waterson and Angela Hill fought in the main event. It's just one of those classic fights that people are going to be talking about for a long time. So I'm glad we're able to do this. Thank you for the time. All the best to you and the family, Michelle. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate that. And, that's all I want is to be, is to have a legacy when all is said and done.